Hello and welcome to Let's Talk HR with Dr. Dhane, the talk show that spotlights HR professionals and talks about all things HR. HR professionals, if you are not familiar with the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, or if your organization is not participating in it, then you are missing out on a great recruitment and business outcome strategy. But no worries. After today's episode, you can show your organization how to get involved. Joining me on the show today is an absolute expert on the topic. He is Dhane Marques of US Tax Works 2.0 Tax Credit Services. How you doing, Dhane?
Great, Dhane. How are you?
I am great. So glad that you're on the show today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Well, good. We go a long way back.
Yes,
we go
do.
a long way back in HR and a long way back in the SHRM board. But you've been in an HR profession for some time. So please share your professional journey with us.
So my journey has just kind of happened. I actually started out pursuing my lifelong dream in my 20s of trying to start a career road racing motorcycles.
Road racing Now that's a fun fact. Racing motorcycles, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so how did it evolve from there?
So I was not successful in that, had a lot of fun, met a lot of great folks, but then I landed in the furniture business and learned business through a regional furniture company here in the Mid-South, and found my way into HR in a separate furniture company a little bit later on in 2006. And joined SHRM Memphis, met you and a whole bunch of great folks, and have been involved with SHRM Memphis ever since, and served on the board a few years, and just love HR. It's we were talking before, business is HR. Every aspect of business is touched by HR.
Every aspect, yes.
While the past few years, my corporate roles have not been, quote unquote, an HR title. Mm-hmm. But as a general manager in a couple of different companies, I did HR all day, every day. So,
every day, all day.
That's
Listen,
right.
In HR, we are in every sector. We are in every business. So there's no escaping
That's
HR.
right.
No
That's
escaping
right.
at all. And I love that fun fact about riding dirt bikes. And you occasionally still do that, right?
Still ride dirt bikes, and every once in a while I get the old race bike out and go to the track and do a few laps. So again, it was a wonderful dream. I'm glad I pursued it. Unfortunately, very few people are successful in it. So, but anyway, here I am.
All right, here you are. So you are the director of the US Tax Works 2.0, right?
That's correct.
And you work closely with the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. Tell us about US Tax Works 2.0.
So my wife had spent 32 years at Memphis Cablevision, Time Warner, and Comcast.
Yes, we remember that.
And when her job was moved to Atlanta, she was looking for something to do. Well, I had run across US Tax Works when I was in the furniture business as an HR director, and US Tax Works only does WOTC, the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, and helped us save just an incredible amount of money. Well, after Sherry left Comcast, as I said, she was looking for something to do, and the founder of US Tax Works was looking for someone to come in and run the operation. So she joined the company in 2013 and was running the company, and then unfortunately the founder died in 2016. And we were able to negotiate the purchase of the company, and we've owned it since February of 2018.
Since 2018, great. That is absolutely wonderful. Now, let's get to it.
Okay.
The Work Opportunity Tax Credit, it's something that many may not be familiar with. So I want you to tell us and take us through that process and tell us a little bit more about the Work Opportunity Tax Credit.
So the Work Opportunity Tax Credit has been around in its current form since around 1996.
Okay.
It's a federally legislated program that is administered by each state's Workforce Development Department. And if you can read into that, that reads complication and bureaucracy and paperwork, right?
It does, it does.
But the idea of the program is the government identified several groups of people that have barriers to employment that typically are having trouble finding meaningful work. And those groups are veterans,
Okay.
which is apropos this week. Veterans Day is coming up.
Hey, it's coming up.
Justice-involved individuals, SSI recipients,
Okay.
chronically unemployed,
Mhm.
which has been a big deal the past couple of years
Mhm.
with COVID and all, and several other groups.
Mhm.
So if an employer hires someone from one of these groups, they can enjoy a federal tax credit
Okay.
based on that new hire's first 12 months gross pay.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's a percentage, and it varies depending on the number of hours worked.
Mhm.
Up to a certain point, it's a 25% credit, and then it maxes out at a 40% credit,
Mhm.
and it caps at $6,000 of wages. So, except for a few unusual circumstances, it's basically a max of $2,400 per new hire.
Per new hire. In one of those categories. Repeat those categories again. You said about the veterans.
Veterans, justice-involved folks, SSI recipients, households that receive SNAP benefits or TANF benefits.
Mhm.
And as a matter of fact, the SNAP benefit group is actually the #1 group for certifications.
Okay.
In 2021, over 60% of the WOTC certifications in the United States were food stamp recipients.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so with that is so interesting. So if you hire anyone from those groups, if you get involved with the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, if you hire anybody from those groups, there's a tax credit associated with that.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. There's a lot of back-end work that goes with that.
Tell us about the back end work.
So,
Tell us how to get involved.
So the new hire has to be certified in the state where they work.
Okay.
So there's some forms that have to be filled out. There's an IRS form that is pretty much typical of an IRS form.
Okay. Yeah.
Not easily understood.
Right.
That has to be filled out, and then within 28 days of the new hire start date,
Mm-hmm.
the paperwork has to get to that respective state, and then the state goes to work certifying or verifying that
Mm-hmm.
whatever they filled out on the form is true.
Now, does the recipient or the new employee have to agree to be a part of this, or is just that you're in a category of one of those categories you gave that you automatically become a part or a recipient of it?
So they have to fill the form out.
Mhm.
And, depending on the employer, I mean, they could refuse to fill it out. And we do see forms not filled out correctly. Unfortunately, many employers still use paper.
Okay.
And on the paper forms, we see errors.
Right.
In our automated online system, it won't let you not fill things
Mhm.
out. So we see fewer errors there.
Mhm.
But the idea is employers aren't necessarily going out and looking for these folks.
Mhm.
Some do.
Okay.
But
Okay.
the majority just know that they're probably hiring into those groups anyway.
Right.
So every applicant is asked to fill these forms out.
Okay.
And then either the employer or a third party person like us will sift through all that and determine which ones are potentially
Mm-hmm.
certifiable. And then once the start date comes, submit those forms to the respective state and go to work to get them certified.
And get them certified
That's right.
and to be a part of the program.
Exactly.
So not only is this a great business strategy, but if you look at it as a whole, it's just a great recruitment strategy as well. We are looking for applicants. We are
Right.
looking for great workers, and people in this category are great workers, right?
That's exactly right. And as I mentioned before, traditionally, companies would just, look at who they're hiring anyway and determine who's in it. But now, employers are having to think differently about where they find people. So a lot of employers are getting very intentional about working with each state to find those veterans, to find those justice-involved individuals, and dig into that talent pool because there are fantastic workers in those groups.
Absolutely.
There's some unsavory ones in the justice involved, but you just have to do your homework and vet the new hire, that applicant. But so it's really a win-win because these folks need work. Employers need the applicants, need the employees.
Absolutely.
So everybody wins.
So does that include previously incarcerated
It does.
groups? It
Yeah,
does. Okay.
That's the current PC term is justice involved.
Justice involved?
Justice involved individuals or
Justice involved
or-
individuals. You heard it here.
right.
Let's talk HR with Dr. Dhane. Justice involved. But
Right.
I think this is a great opportunity
It
because
is.
what we find of the justice involved groups, sometimes organizations will shy away from that.
That's right.
But guess what? Every person needs an opportunity. Every person needs a second chance. And so how does that work in terms of placing them in places where it could be questionable about their offense? So, if someone had previous theft charge
Mhm.
10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever the case may be. So the HR person is going to look and vet that person to see whether or not, right,
Right.
that it's not in conflict with what the previous offense was.
So that's really important. You wouldn't want to take certain offenses and put them in certain roles
Right.
in companies. So the HR department really needs to determine what makes sense. There's also programs that can bond these new hires
Mm-hmm.
to protect the company if they did make a bad decision,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to protect them from harm. So there's certainly ways to do it, and it takes a little more work. But in our current climate, we've got to do the extra work to find the good employees.
Yes.
There's many that went to prison on charges that wouldn't bother us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And many, they do their time, they want to come out and be a productive part of our society and live a good life.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Now, you probably won't take the person who went to prison for embezzlement and put them in your finance department.
Right.
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 But
Right.
Absolutely, great talent pool. Veterans as well. If you think about veterans,
Mm-hmm.
they are used to being trained.
Yes.
They understand discipline. They understand getting the job done. And they
Mhm.
can be very, very loyal.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, they get overlooked in many cases. And
Yeah.
there's great organizations in our great city
Mhm.
and in cities across the country that work with justice-involved individuals and veterans to help them have the skills they need to be great employees
Right.
and to help them find those opportunities. And we work closely with several of those organizations around town and across the country.
Okay. And what has been the outcome? Sometimes you find that individuals, veterans, and the justice involved, they are excellent employees because, first of all, they want to do a great job as
Right.
well.
Right.
They want to maybe start over. They may want to expand their career if you're a veteran. So what's kind of been the trend in that? Have you come out with an overwhelmingly high percentage of positive outcomes with that?
Unfortunately, it has not been as much as we would love to see.
Okay.
The justice involved and veteran groups tend to be down the list of the most effective. We'd like
Okay.
to see them number one.
Mhm.
We really would. But typically they're the third or fourth most certified group,
Mhm.
and that varies by state.
Okay.
But
Okay.
so we really want to work hard to improve that because as business folks, we talk all the time about we want to reduce recidivism.
Right.
But then if we won't take that chance and change our policy
Right.
and give those people an opportunity,
Right.
recidivism's never going to improve.
Absolutely. And that is one of the goals of SHRM National,
Yep.
to change that paradigm in the HR world, to give people chances. And the head and president of SHRM National is making that part of his initiative and one of his priority goals in that. And we need to give people a chance. So you mentioned that there are some recipients that are higher up the percentage than others that do well in a higher percentage. What groups are those?
So the number one group is households who have received food stamps, SNAP
Okay.
benefits.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be the individual named. It can just, if the new hire just comes from a household
Mm-hmm.
that is receiving that help,
Mm-hmm.
that in 21, that was 60+% of the certifications across the U.S.
Okay.
Number two, and again, this varies a little bit by state, but number two has been the chronically unemployed.
Okay.
Anyone that's been unemployed for 27 weeks or more and has
Mhm.
received unemployment assistance at any point during that
Mhm.
is eligible as well.
And that could be a lot of people, especially during the Great Resignation, especially during the pandemic. There are a lot of people that qualify.
That's-
Qualify for that, right?
That's exactly right. We saw in 2020 we saw the number of certifications nationally kind of tail off a little because hiring tailed off in a big way, right? But it
Right.
came back very, very strong in 2021. There were almost 2.1 million certifications
Wow.
for WOTC in 2021.
Okay.
And if you think about that, if every one of those maxed out at the 2,400,
Mhm.
that's almost $5 billion potential in tax credits
Wow.
available to employers. Now, not every employee will max it out, but
Mhm.
that's just an example of what it could be.
So what is the percentage of organizations, or is there a statistic around the number of organizations that take advantage of this?
That's not really something that's published because
Okay.
there's not like a clearinghouse that says,
Mhm.
if you're doing it, sign, tell
Mhm.
us, right? So what we find though is high volume employers
Okay.
tend to be take most advantage of it because they're going to get the most advantage, obviously, right? So
right.
we see hospitality industry is huge,
Okay.
staffing industry is huge,
Okay.
and by hospitality I mean both in hotel, motel, and also in restaurants.
Okay.
So we see a lot of that.
All right.
Yeah.
Listen. This is a great opportunity. I would say this is a well-rounded opportunity for not only you as the employer, but also for prospective candidates that are looking for work. Now, let's go back to how this works. To get involved, what do you do?
Okay, so it's fairly simple.
Mhm.
If whether you want to do it internally or you use a third-party vendor, many folks use their payroll company,
Okay.
but it's just a matter of having applicants fill out the forms. Someone has to go through them and determine which ones are potentials,
Mhm.
and then get that paperwork to the respective state within 28 days of their start date.
Okay.
Then you got to keep up with their hours and pay.
All right.
They have to work a minimum of 120 hours, which is really nothing.
Mhm.
And from 120 to 399 hours, the credit is 25% of the new hire's gross payroll in their first year.
And how does that organization receive that tax credit?
So when tax time comes,
Mhm.
they have to take that information, the certified employees, their hours worked, and their gross pay, and do a calculation and prepare more IRS forms that would go to that company's tax preparer.
Okay.
And then they would take that amount of credit right off the bottom line of their federal taxes.
Wow. I don't think a whole lot of people really know about this, but this is a great opportunity for people to become aware of what's available out there. Now, are there any industries that cannot participate in the work? Are is governmental agencies or things of that nature? Is there any industry that cannot be a part of it?
Well, nonprofits
Mm-hmm.
work a little differently. They can still be a part of it,
Okay.
but it works a little differently, and it doesn't come off the federal taxes. It comes off their unemployment taxes instead.
All right.
Process is a little bit different. The initial process with the initial forms and all is the same,
Okay.
but then figuring out the credit and figuring out when to take advantage of it is a little bit different.
Whatever industry you in, you need to call Dhane to get involved or to find out what would be the advantages of taking advantage of this. I think it's a great thing. Now, you mentioned one time, sometimes the starts are faulty, meaning that in HR, you tried to use it early on in HR, but it didn't work as well for you. Tell us about that, but then tell you what you did differently to make it work from an HR perspective.
Well, when I found it, I was 300 employees, 40% turnover, and I thought, I'm probably hiring from these groups anyway without even knowing it.
Right.
But it's complicated, and the deadlines involved and the paperwork. I couldn't make it work.
Mhm.
So I was introduced to the founder of US Tax Works
Mhm.
and used his services to save us an incredible amount of money over the years in taxes.
Okay.
So he took the program and automated it so that it's super, super simple for the employers.
Okay.
And then we've tweaked it beyond that since we've had it. So we just want to make it so simple for the hiring manager or the HR manager that it's a no-brainer.
Okay.
Because any company who's not taking advantage of this is leaving federal tax money on the table.
Oh, wow.
And we all want to lessen our taxes.
Yes.
So it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It really is.
All right. This is absolutely wonderful. So what trends are you seeing in the participation of it? Are there certain organizations that you see that are using it more than others?
We've seen an uptick over the past year and a half or so. COVID has changed everything.
Yes, it did.
And we all, it's a cliche to say it, but our industry's changing as well. And it's become a little more difficult to track it just because everyone's doing all kind of crazy stuff now,
Right. Right.
But we, as we mentioned
Mhm.
before, we're seeing some uptick in those particular categories with vets and former the justice involved.
Yes.
I'm forgetting my own deal.
Yeah.
And we anticipate that growing more as well.
Okay.
We've seen certainly the chronically unemployed.
Mhm.
That was huge in 21 and has been huge this year as well.
Okay.
And we'll see. The way of work has changed and is continuing to change. And
Yes.
we'll see how that shakes out.
Absolutely. And HR professionals, we're finding ourselves having to be more innovative
Yep.
in recruitment strategies and recruiting talent. So what can HR executives or HR professionals do or play, or what roles do we play in considering the work opportunity tax credit recruitment strategies? What can we do? What kind of roles can we play to foster this during this time of unpredictability?
Well, I think HR professionals have to take the lead in their organizations and talk to their owners and the C-suite about the struggles in employment
Mm-hmm.
and present new strategies and open up our hiring to groups that maybe in the past we've not embraced. Right. So,
Right.
but we like to talk about buy-in and a seat at the
Yes.
table, but HR can't do it alone. We can take the lead in it,
Yes,
but we've got to get the
buy-in.
the buy-in from the real decision makers.
Okay.
You know?
So does your company or your organization make presentations, go to companies, make presentations about the work opportunity tax credit program?
Sure, absolutely. Now, we don't necessarily make presentations with a mindset of saying you need to change how you hire, you need to change how you run your company, because that's not our role.
Right.
But we can certainly present on how we make it really easy from a mechanical standpoint of taking advantage of the program and saving federal taxes.
Okay, that is absolutely wonderful. This is a great resource here. So, how can organizations get involved through the program, and how do they contact you?
Okay, so we're US Tax Works 2.0. You can Google that, or you can go to www.ustaxworks2llc.com. You can call me.
Call him.
Call me. We're happy to help. We're happy to have a conversation. We certainly, if organizations aren't taking advantage of it now, please call. You need to, whether you use a company like ours or whether you try to do it internally. But we can show a better value in using us as a third party so that you can focus on your business,
Yes.
not take time away.
Yes.
And then WOTC is all US Tax Works 2.0 does. And as our only revenue stream,
Yes.
number one, we're really good at it. And number two, we are laser focused on maximizing it for our clients and taking great care of them.
Well, if you're good at it, we need to talk to you. This has been great. Thank you so much. Are there any final words or final advice you would have with regard to this topic to our audience?
Well, just as we said before, if you're not doing it, you need to. And if you're doing it now, we can do a better job for you than you can do yourself.
Wow. We have learned a tremendous amount of information today. No doubt about it. Participating in the Work Opportunity Tax Credit process is definitely a way for organizations to tap into new talent and be innovative in filling talent gaps in the world of work. HR professionals, you can be the catalyst to champion the process and advocate to get things started. Be sure to watch Let's Talk HR with Dr. Dhane every second and fourth Friday on the YouTube channel of the same name. But if the holiday falls on the fourth Friday, look to see the new episode the next week. Please note you can watch Let's Talk HR with Dr. Dhane and prior episodes at any time. Go to the YouTube channel and type in the talk show title. But if you want to be notified when new episodes post, be sure to subscribe. No fee to the channel and click on the notification bell. This is HR TV. I'm Dr. Dhane, and I want to talk HR with you. HR forever. See you next time.